Couple seconds before I then say, welcome, friends, welcome, family. What's going on, Ma? Welcome you guys on a Tuesday watch party here. I'm glad you're here. Hope you're well rested. I mean, that would make at least one of us, at least if I'm talking to each of you solo one on one, because I'm I'm not well rested. I'm not well rested at all. I think I mentioned it in the chat for a few people, the early nerds that are here, the early nerds who don't miss the beginning of the stream every day in this place, especially since I've been on time lately and even earlier the past couple days. This is going to be a good ass week. And I think I may have just jinxed myself as far as getting here on time all week. But you know what I didn't jinx myself on? Can I tell you what I didn't get jinxed about? I'd love to share with you this for a couple of reasons. One, the first reason being that I'm not jinxed, and the second reason being that when I talked about being well rested, you know, this is the reason. This is the reason I'm not all that well rested. I want to share this with you.
Los Angeles. Thurman sends a fly ball to center field. Varsho's going back before the clock strikes me. Freddie Freeman has ended it. It's a repeat hero with the last word on a Game 3 classic. Los Angeles.
My friends, even the haters, even the people who don't give a damn about baseball, that happened last night. It's only game 3 of the World Series. It's not a decisive game. It's a pivotal game, but it's not the decisive game of the series. But it definitely was 18 innings and went multiple hours. It was 2 games back to back. Let's keep it real. 18 innings worth of baseball ended with that same guy, Freddie Freeman, ending another game in a World Series like the guy that he is. The only person who was up later than me was my kid. I went to bed before it was all over because I was like, you know what? I'm too old for this. I stayed up through like 14 innings, something like that. No more. But I was also avoiding wearing my Dodgers hat until we could potentially get something done in this series. And that's the first thing to get done. It was a big deal. These guys are tired. So it was like 3 o'clock on the East before that was over. And here we are. I know many of you guys don't care, but the few of you that do, I think it was a good night. It's worth it. If you're gonna be up that late, especially playing, I was thinking more about the players. It's more devastating to lose after putting through all of that work and all that fatigue and have to come back again today to do it. We got 2 more games at home. Hopefully, we won't have to go back up and cross that border and do any more games up there in Toronto. It's a great team. Toronto's a good team to watch. If they were playing literally anyone else in all of baseball, I would be rooting for the Blue Jays. But what can you do about that? Okay, I'm done with that part. I just want to tell you guys why I'm tired. And hopefully I can have a couple thoughts that I can put string together as we go through all these stories of devastation, maybe a little bit of hope, potentially, definitely information about what it is that we're seeing, where we're going, and maybe some offshoots to this government shutdown that we're all dealing with. Yeah, I'll get to the normal political news and analysis and all the things that we're all frustrated by every day with this administration doing things and lying to us and acting like that's not really happening. But the biggest mouthpiece of this administration did put his face in front of cameras again, and he has some new declarations. There's a little bit. I think there's extra desperation happening. I mentioned on John's show, this party's get more desperate because their lies are on display every day. People are feeling the extreme pain. When you're an extreme radical party like this MAGA Republican Party really is, you have to keep talking because you got constant propaganda. The difference between 1940s propaganda and 2025 propaganda is that everyone can see it and analyze it and see just how much you're always lying. But I guess Mike Johnson still lives in 1940s. Here he is.
The Democrats are required to open the government. They keep saying Republicans are in charge of government. We aren't, not in the Senate. 60 votes control the Senate, not a bare majority. And so point number 1, Democrat votes are required to open the government. Point.
I kept hearing from this guy who looks a lot like Donald Trump, who's that guy's boss, he's the mouthpiece for that president. I kept hearing him say he won in a landslide. I heard him say that he controls everything. I keep hearing him say he can do anything that he wants. And matter of fact, I've seen him break every rule that he can think of to do anything that he wants. But for some reason, suddenly right now, and the same guy who said he's welcoming the government shutdown so he can destroy more people's lives, fire more people, dismantle Democrat programs and agenda items, the guy who said all of that suddenly has no power to open the government. But Mike Johnson wants you to think that Democrats have control over it. So the Democrats are in power, right? Or maybe you should step aside and let a Democrat be in charge, since you have no power, Mike Johnson, since you sent people home early for like the second time over a big deal in Congress right before the August recess, the first time to avoid things like the Epstein files, which is part of the reasons why he's welcoming this government shutdown, so they don't have to deal with Adelita Grijalva. That's just a small list of the things that this guy is lying about. I'm gonna let him talk a little bit more extensively about, how he's not in power, but also extra excuses as to reasons why they can't do anything about this.
But even during the government shutdown, House committees could still meet, there could still be markups, there could still be oversight hearings, bills could still come to the floor. So why not do that rather than have members back home in their districts? Why not bring them back here and do the work that they were elected to do?
There cannot be a regular legislative session so long as the government is closed and Americans are feeling so much pain. We won't do that. Now, in the meantime, Republicans, I don't know what the Democrats are doing other than publicity stunts, but I can tell you the House Republicans are doing some of the most meaningful work of their careers. They're in their districts working around the clock with their constituents, helping them not only to negotiate the crisis that's been created by this Democrat shutdown, but all the other matters that they need to attend to. And I'm hearing from them individually. They are having some of the most meaningful interactions at a time of great crisis with their constituents that they've ever had. And that's really, really important. So I don't want to pull them away from that work right now when their insight and their counsel and their assistants and those of their staff, who, by the way, aren't getting paid soon, that is most essentially needed right now back home.
Mike Johnson wants people to believe that he sent all of the members, his Republican members, back home to do the most meaningful work that they've ever done. The most meaningful work they've ever done back at home. Can anyone ask him for some explanations or specific examples of the things that these people are doing at home that are so meaningful? They're meeting with people and they're talking to constituents. Are they really? Every time they have town hall meetings, which is the best forum to talk to as many constituents as possible back at home, they get yelled out of the room. They get asked questions like, why did you sign on to this spending bill that steals more money from regular Americans and gives it to rich people? And then Mike Johnson told them not to go to those anymore. He thinks we don't remember anything that he's said, but he says the things every day. The guy doesn't stop lying. He's sleazy. He calls himself Moses. And actually, this is why I'm glad I ran across this. Because again, Moses Mike Johnson, the reason I call him Moses Mike Johnson, maybe I should run that more. Before he became speaker and they ran Kevin McCarthy's sorry ass out of town, before he became speaker and he was standing in front of some, religious organization that he's a part of, and they gave him an award, he told a story about how he had some vision or something, and he's been led to be this leader similar to Moses. This snake oil salesman called himself Moses, as he stood and now stands under Donald Trump's ass every day and does his bidding. So there are some actual religious leaders. I'm not sure why this still happens, but I decided to go ahead and play some of it. This is the Senate chaplain. His name is Barry Black, Admiral, I believe, Barry Black. He had some words about the government shutdown as he was, quote, praying.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our King, when our children and grandchildren want to know what we were doing in the 119th Congress during the famous shutdown, may we not have to give these answers. I helped set a new record for keeping the government closed. I failed to appeal to the better angels of my nature. I forgot Matthew 7:12, which states, "Do to others whatever you would like them to do to you." This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and prophets. Lord, remind our lawmakers that no gold medals are given for breaking shutdown records, but a crown of righteousness is given to those who take care of the lost, last, and least. We pray in your loving name. Amen.
Listen, bro. Rear Admiral Barry Black is kind of pissed. I get the feeling that he's upset. You can be a man of God and be upset. He wrote down that prayer. I mean, they probably usually do, but he's like, I'm going to get through every bit of this and talk about how you guys can't be winning gold medals, but a crown. I mean, I feel like my man was preaching. I mean, it's dry and a little bit boring as it was. I did grow up in the church. My man he had a sermon to give. We saw the insinuations of them ignoring regular folks, the least wealthy of us in this country, the folks that are most dire need, the folks that need these types of assistance because they also contribute to our country. We like to say that these folks who are in need of these types of subsidies, even when it comes to things like healthcare, but also just the SNAP benefits that are also set to expire, that they're now scrambling over, trying to shift blame towards. Rear Admiral Barry Black was all over that. I wonder if he talks to Moses, to ask if he gives a damn about any of that either. There was another representative. Her name is Janelle Bynum. She's also a religious person, and she actually wanted to challenge Mike Johnson on his mindset towards those folks that are less well off than he is.
I've often wondered how you can dig so deep into your faith and then look yourself in the mirror and say you're okay with not feeding children. You're okay with not feeding seniors. Like that, I have a problem with that as a person of faith. You know, I'll go toe to toe with Mike Johnson on that. And I think that's what gets me like in the deepest parts of my heart. The other challenge for us is that we have to make sure that the American people are being served. If you can find money to send $40 billion to Argentina, but you can't find money for food for kids and seniors, I have a problem with that. You can find money for an airplane, for 2 airplanes for Kristi Noem, then you can find money to feed American children and seniors. It doesn't math. I wonder, I've often...
This is where this narrative, I think, is shifting lately. There's always been this demonization of poorer folks that are on SNAP benefits at the time before food stamps, so they could make it really sound like the folks that you're supposed to hate are the folks that have less than you. This president has been running through cities and attacking the least fortunate, ran through DC and shoved out unhoused people and called them, dirty and filthy and a scourge on this country. And it's always worked in the past to attack the least fortunate. For some reason, because we have this whole rat race idea that you're better than someone else because of whatever got them in their positions and their slots in life. But now that this whole administration is running roughshod over everything and destroying so many other people's lives that consider themselves better than that or immune from hard times, he's putting hard times on so many more people who never imagined it coming. I ran a video before a couple weeks, maybe last week, of this couple who's losing their ACA benefits. They're retired professionals who worked their whole lives, normal white couple who's like in their late 50s, early 60s in this country. And they were talking about how they're living paycheck to paycheck, and now they don't know what they're going to do. The people that he always, not necessarily those specific people, but the kinds of people that they always relied on to be like, well, I'm not on the street. I don't rely on SNAP benefits. It's affecting so many folks that when you start asking, do you really care about people? It affects the people that never thought they would have to be cared about. It's not looking too good for them. So this whole I'm a Christian thing, and I pray every time a child gets shot in a school, and therefore I'm not going to do anything about it. It's starting to fall really, really flat because we're starting to see the emptiness in your prayers. Because I never believed these guys prayed about any of that stuff. They just said it so they can move along and get away from those cameras and then shed that responsibility that they're supposed to have. So that's the religious aspect of the loss that these Republicans are taking in this government shutdown. I like what Senator Ruben Gallego was doing, though. He went on CNBC, talked to Joe Kernan. Argued with Joe Kernan.
By the way, how can I negotiate? The president's in Asia for 5 days. Johnson's basically keeping his the House of Representatives out till January to stop, and protect pedophiles. So who am I negotiating with right now? The other person I'm talking to right now is everyday Americans who are worried that they're going to have their insurance rates doubled overnight because Republicans refuse to act. So they're screwing up on tariffs, they're raising inflation, and now they're going to go ahead
the Republicans
and raise your premiums.
The Republicans are refusing to be blackmailed and held hostage into what Democrats want. Mike Johnson doesn't need to do anything.
Democrats, that's what I want is 24 million Americans. I want 24 million Americans to have inflation. No,
Okay,
24 million Americans want their insurance. Want
finished.
healthy and affordable insurance.
I appreciate it.
You too. Have a good one.
Okay.
Have you back. By the way, how can I negotiate?
Okay, so this bullshit argument that Joe Kernan tries to push to be like, Republicans aren't going to be held hostage by these Democrats. It's time to go back and start talking about this is why this stage has been set. Ruben Gallego can bring up the 24 of the millions of Americans that are dealing with the fear that they've now got in their hearts about what they're going to do next. You could always before say it's just Democrats versus Republicans and these elected officials going at each other. And I can't believe your team is doing that against my team. These talking points that you can go through and talk about what's happening between a couple of politicians falls flat when you can then bring up the number of Americans, the people who vote your ass in, the people who pay taxes in this country aren't feeling so good about what it is that's happening. That's why Joe Kernan said, well, fine by then, because I have no more arguments left. I brought up the normal, old, tired, traditional argument about how we're supposed to talk about politicians when it's human lives that are dealing with this stuff. And the kinds of human lives that we always consider we're supposed to like, that we're supposed to consider worthy. That's why this party, this MAGA party, is losing this argument. So if they want to bring up this whole thing of being held hostage because the Republicans don't want to expand healthcare or allow it to continue, even at the minimal point that it is through ACA exchanges and those types of those fundings, the problem now is that no one cares that you're dogging folks out because you're dogging out more people because your president's attacking more people. I'm not sure how they didn't see that coming. Like it makes it really easy. Here's Representative Jason Crow, another Democrat.
Listen, Democrats have already decided to come to the table. That was on day one. We've always been at the table. They have literally, ineffectively shut the doors and shut us out. Donald Trump himself said, don't deal with the Democrats. Don't even talk to them. He went on Fox and Friends and said that specifically. That was his order to Mike Johnson. So I have been here for 7 years now. Every single year, we've passed a bipartisan funding bill when we've passed it, and that is the only way out, right? It has to be bipartisan, and it also has to have guardrails in place because of what this president has shown himself to be and to do in the last 10 months, which is disregard Congress, disregard the law, spend money however he wants to spend it, right? I have an obligation to my constituents and to this country and Constitution not to give a blank check to a president who's willing to spend money however he wants. That's not how the Constitution works. So we are here. Our door is open. We're ready to negotiate. That is the only way out of this. But Donald Trump has to come home from his overseas trip. He has to stop focusing on the plans and the blueprints for his $200 million ballroom. He has to stop buying $170 million of jets for Kristi Noem. He has to stop wasting all the money that he's wasting, buying cattle from Argentina to bail out one of his strongman friends and undermine the U.S. cattle market. He has to stop all of that, and he has to tell Mike Johnson to come to the table so we can fix this.
When your leader does this many despicable things to the American people, and your job as Mike Johnson and the rest of this MAGA Republican Party is to keep sanitizing it, you run out of options, you run out of excuses. It's very easy to bring up Kristi Noem's 2 jets. It's very easy to bring up Donald Trump's constant golf trips. It's very easy to bring up the fact that he's trying to build this $300 million bunker underneath the White House where he's going to go hide out while he bombs the country. All I'm saying is when you're dealing with a guy who this Republican Party from the beginning said he's a disaster, and then you become a disaster with him, I don't know how you don't see yourself losing this battle. He's the only one that's Teflon Don. He's the only one who's the cult leader. There's no cult leaders that are full of like 35, 40 people that are surrounding him and continuing to try and sanitize him. Like, he's the only guy that for some reason all these red hat wearers think is Jesus. It's only him. You look bad. That's why Mike Johnson continues to be flustered. That's why he continues to get more frustrated. That's why he's lashing out even more. So now people like Josh Hawley, another Republican, he's in Missouri, he's a senator. This is their next stage of trying to figure this out. This is on his own page. He said Hawley introduces legislation to fund food stamps and farm programs during government shutdown. Wow, that sounds good. Republican Josh Hawley, who's usually really bad on things. This is the post that he superimposed onto this page from X. Since the Democrats refuse to fund the government, I'm introducing legislation to reinstate SNAP benefits immediately, even during the government shutdown. Missourians shouldn't go hungry because of the left's incompetence. Our kids deserve to eat. So as you can see, Josh Hawley's plan here is to try and do something to save so many of his poor constituents from dealing with the issues that his president has laid upon them, because part of these cuts that they all celebrated and made as soon as Elon Musk's dumbass came in and started slashing and spending, as they've been doing ever since this MAGA administration got started, their people are suffering. And he has to find a way to, first off, address that, help them so he doesn't look bad, but then also still blame Democrats. It kind of sucks to be in that position. He's been in that position before. As soon as I saw him post that, I was like, I remember when Josh Hawley was begging Kristi Noem to jet Kristi Noem for some FEMA assistance, because again, Josh Hawley represents poor Missourians.
Commit to helping for those 3 major disaster declaration requests that are pending. Will you help expedite those, Secretary Noem, and get those in front of the president, get those approved? We are desperate for the assistance in Missouri.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
Make
you.
sure the application gets to the White House as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you. And can I also have your commitment that if and when the president approves a major disaster declaration for this storm that just happened on Friday in St. Louis, will you expedite as much as possible FEMA individual assistance for those who qualify for it in the St. Louis area?
Yes.
And I want to tell you just how important that is, because as I toured these streets and walked and talked to the residents, what I heard over and over is many of these folks don't have insurance.
Yeah.
Many of these folks, they either got their homes from a family member, or they bought them from a family member, so they don't have a mortgage on the property, and therefore they don't have homeowners insurance. So, as you know, having been a governor, in many instances, FEMA assistance is going to be the only assistance that they're.
Isn't it weird how Josh Hawley's poor constituents that have no insurance, that have homes that were handed down, that are living out of trailers, isn't it weird that suddenly they should be helped out, and assistance was his favorite word? Assistance, 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 assistance. Suddenly assistance is something that the American people deserve. I'm sorry, only Josh Hawley's constituents deserve, where he begged Kristi Noem for some help after Donald Trump ran on raiding FEMA and all of its funds and saying, F you to all of you guys. I'm sorry, he said all of you blue state people, because they've convinced themselves that they're better than someone else when they're in the exact same situation, and in many cases, worse situations than the people that they're looking down on. But the problem Josh Hawley's got with that whole pitch and saying, I'm saving SNAP benefits, I'm going to introduce this bill, which good, they should introduce a bill. They should do something about it. They should pay those SNAP benefits for everyone that's in need of them. The problem is his own party keeps kicking him in the nuts. The leader in the Senate, John Thune, says, we'll have conversations with our members about steps we'll be taking forward. But my view is, you want to pay SNAP recipients? Open the government. It's not complicated. He also said that the administration is looking at what they can do legally and what they have the capacity to do to pay SNAP beneficiaries. He talked to Trump last night. It sucks for you there, Josh Hawley, when you post about how the Democrats won't let you do anything so you can introduce this, but your buddy who's the leader of your party in that same body that you belong to said, man, please, we're not doing that. It's almost like, the true colors for Republicans, that they never give a damn about any of this. And the folks who act like they do, like Josh Hawley, they're acting like they do so that they don't feel the political consequences. Just so you guys know. That's why Republicans are losing this battle. I mean, usually they could say these Democrats should open the government, but if it got opened, more destruction would be there. And actually, all the people who've been wondering when Democrats are going to do something are like, this is the only play they've got. And yes, things are getting worse. Things will be more destructive. There's tons of people, I'm sure, that are blaming both parties like we usually do. And I'm sure both parties have a lot of blame to go around on this. The problem is the policies are either really bad or really, really bad because these Republicans control this. Let's move on. If you guys just got here, glad you are. You know what you missed? You missed Freddie Freeman hitting a walk-off home run at damn near 3 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast and in the 18th inning of the Dodgers game. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I mean, I know a lot of you guys don't like Dodgers, guys. So even if you hate Dodgers, folks, please still like the stream. Maybe share it. You should subscribe. I don't do this all the time. I'm just tired. Let's move on to the next aspect of this destructive administration. The lies continue. The propaganda rolls on. I want you guys to pay attention to the way that these guys have gone about attacking Americans in this country, and even folks that they consider not to be Americans. Which one is that? Let's bring this one up. Here it is. This is Donald Trump's words as he's over in Japan at our American naval base. He's got all the Navy guys all behind him. He thinks he controls them. He thinks he owns them. So for some reason, he was in like campaign mode because, again, he's floundering.
Our people in the service, and people don't care. If we send in our military, if we send in our National Guard, if we send in Space Command, they don't care who the hell it is. They just want to be safe. And we have safe cities now. We're starting in Memphis, and Memphis was a disaster. It's been there. They've been there for 2 weeks, and it's a whole different series. Crime is less than half, and within a month, it'll be gone. Getting rid of all the bad ones. And we're going to go into Chicago. We're going to go into our cities. We're going to clean them out. We're going to straighten them out. And we're going to have safe cities because you want to protect safe cities. We're going to have beautiful, safe cities, and it's happening very quickly and very easily, actually. It's easy for us. It's hard for them. And we have to have a little more help. It doesn't matter, really. We can do as we want to do, but it would be nice to have more help from some of the Democrat governors that don't mind. In Chicago, our people and
the wannabe dictator of the United States said we can do as we want to do. He keeps saying things like that. Then No Kings protests happen all across the country. Millions of people come out, and dude says, nobody was really there, and everybody knows I'm not a king. But he keeps talking like he can do whatever the hell he wants. And every time he says he can do whatever the hell he wants, it's surrounded in violence. It's surrounded in attacking American citizens that he also said he wasn't going to do. Nobody's buying this anymore. The people that are still supporting, it's the difference between buying it and supporting it. The people that support it, it's not that they're being fooled, it's they enjoy the violence too. There's plenty of white supremacist, hateful people in this country. This is a direct result of this guy saying he's going to run up in any city that he wants and do whatever he wants. This is disgusting.
I was going to school, bro. I was going to school. Get here! I'm underpaid. I'm underpaid. We're from the United States, bro. You better break his neck, bro. You can't go.
For all those people that are saying this does not happen to U.S. citizens, have the courage and the guts to tell that to Arnoldo in his face. Does it happen to him? Para toda esa gente que diga que esto no les sucede a ciudadanos americanos, tengan el valor, tengan la cara para decírselo a Arnoldo en su cara. Para decirle que esto no les pasa a ciudadanos teniéndolo aquí, que él terminó en el hospital.
Arnoldo Bazan and his father were attacked by ICE agents. This is in Houston area. Run up on and attacked. 16-year-old kid said, I was going to school. So when you hear a 16-year-old kid saying, I was going to school, I'm an American citizen, and he's taken off in handcuffs with his shirt ripped open, it doesn't match up when people like Stephen Miller walk around and talk about how we're going for the worst of the worst, because I'm going to get to him and actually tell you what he really cares about. First, I'm going to tell you the devastating things that happened to this kid, this child, and his father. As I said, it was in the Houston area. And who is this guy, Arnaldo Bazan, who is a U.S. citizen, was beaten, choked, and subjected to racial slurs when masked officers chased him and his father in an early morning immigration enforcement action. As again, I said he's 16 and he was on his way to school when an unmarked car pulled his father, Arnulfo Bazan, and that teenager over. He said during a news conference that he and his dad were pulled over by a car with no clear indication it belonged to law enforcement. The officers who approached did not identify themselves as law enforcement and wore uniforms that bore no official insignia. So, I mean, the same way that Donald Trump liked to talk about how our cities are being run, people are getting carjacked, places are getting robbed. Hey, maybe this was a couple of carjackers, and if these guys had guns, they would have shot them in the face. And then we'd have said, how dare you shoot these unmarked, ununiformed people running up and smashing on your windows and snatching your door open with guns in your face? That sounds like a gang. Here's more. Here's a quote. Their vests, they didn't say police, nothing. And that's when me and my dad got scared because they started hitting our window, tried to open our door. Me and my dad went to fight or flight mode and we just backed away. The father and son tried to flee and were eventually stopped by other vehicles. When they ran from the car, Bazan said the agents tackled them in a restaurant supply store. The incident occurred near the intersection of South Gesner Road and Beechnut Street, for all of you guys that are familiar with the city there. So not only that, as they attack these two folks, run around them, surround them, and then attack them as they run into a restaurant supply store, that business then kind of has to deal with this whole drama happening in their area. Who knows if things were destroyed? Maybe some of their supplies were messed up in the state of our economy now, when supplies are probably very valuable to these businesses that are suffering under Donald Trump's economy. Here's the last quote from this article. He said, I saw the choking him, kicking him, punching him. It's when I reacted. I just ran to my dad and another agent grabbed my shirt. I didn't hit nobody. I didn't do nothing to nobody. I was just standing there recording on my phone. And then they took my phone, theft. Then that's when they tackled me. I said I was underage. The dude started choking me more. And as we already heard, the racial slurs that they tossed around, because as we've found out and we've already known since this president said he was going to do this, he's got his Klansmen, he's got his Proud Boys, and he's got all of his white wing nationalist militias running up and becoming his personal police to attack brown, black folks, women, anybody that he doesn't like. But you know what? They figure, just like with that government shutdown, the thought is, I mean, those are just the minorities that we've been told to hate our whole lives. Who cares about them? As was also predicted, they're also coming after older white folks. Weird. It's like they hate everybody. Yeah, I'm gonna read this really fast. This is the beginning of a post that was put over on Instagram by this running group. Really fast. It says one of our athletes was on his way home from a team long run yesterday. And as he turned onto his block, found that Border Patrol had the road blocked. This is in the Chicago area. The agents threatened to break his window if he didn't move his car. Before he could act, they pulled him out of his car, knelt on his back, and subdued him, though he never resisted. They broke 6 of his ribs and caused internal bleeding. And this guy's name is not Arnaldo Bazan. Here, watch what they did to him.
Get the fuck out of here! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fucking piece of shit! You fucking American! All right, you got me! Get off of him! Get off of him! Get off of me! It's all being recorded! Guys, 7 years old. Well, not resist. 7 years old. Dude, what is you're fucking suffocating! I'm a fucking lawyer!
I want to read this part. This is at the back end of that video. Tear gas, terror, and lawlessness in our streets. There were kids and families having a Halloween parade on his block when this happened. If this happened to our teammate, it can happen to anyone. And it very clearly is. While he was doing nothing wrong, neither are thousands of others who are being targeted for their race, occupation, or generally who they are. What's happening in Chicago is so messed up, so illegal, so scary, so sad. Let's continue sharing, standing up for our neighbors, and shining a light on those attempting to bring darkness. So like I said, it's this running group, DW Running 1 over on Instagram. And I looked at some of their content. Their content is a bunch of folks running in community, training for marathons, as this 67-year-old man was. Before then, he went home on his block where this gang had taken over the block. Does that sound familiar? It sounds like the way that Donald Trump likes to describe minorities in gangs that take over blocks and terrorize your neighborhood. And we got to get some law enforcement in there to get them out. Who's going to do something about this gang that ran up in this neighborhood, attacked this 67-year-old man who was training for a marathon and broke 6 of his ribs? Who's going to do something about them? I'll tell you what this administration plans to do about it. They plan to make it much worse. The Trump administration is staging a major shakeup at Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, in case you didn't know, with plans to reassign senior leaders in agency offices across the country amid frustrations over current arrest and deportation levels. It's too low. One U.S. official who requested anonymity to talk about these matters said as many as roughly a dozen local ICE leaders could be reassigned, with some expected to be replaced by current or former officials at Customs and Border Protection, its sister Department of Homeland Security agency. Some of those ICE officials have already been informed of their reassignments. It's looking like they're not very happy about the numbers of people that are being deported. And what they want to do is make it much worse. So I guess they're finding the most vicious, violent people possible. Here's more. ICE leaders in Denver, LA, Philly, Phoenix, and San Diego were relieved of their jobs and moved to other posts within the federal agency last Friday. This is from the Washington Examiner. Yeah, that's a conservative organization who's writing about this. I think they're finally figuring out how horrific this administration is. Here's more. Back to the other article. There's a couple that talked about this. In the spring, White House Deputy Chief Stephen Miller, that Nazi, the architect of President Trump's mass deportation plans, suggested on Fox News that ICE should be carrying out a minimum of 3,000 arrests a day. ICE officials have not met that target. While they've peaked above 2,000 on some days, arrests by the agency typically hover around 1,000 every day. That's the clear reason why they're going after American citizens, anybody with an accent that they don't like, someone who has a cell phone out, people who are on their way to work. Like, what are you doing working? That looks like, legal behavior. And we're illegal actors and agents that are run up in here. It's supposed to be destroying things by the declaration and demands of Donald Trump's Stephen Miller, his very own Joseph Goebbels. He might even be worse because he's controlling even more than that. That article there mentioned what Stephen Miller was talking about back in May on Fox News. I want you to hear how rabid and gurgling of blood this piece of shit said all that with.
Yes. Well, under President Trump's leadership, we are looking to set a goal of a minimum of 3,000 arrests for ICE every day. And President Trump is going to keep pushing to get that number up higher each and every single day so we can get all of the Biden illegals that were flooded into our country for 4 years out of our country. And we can't take the risk of letting these Biden illegals roam around freely so that the next American daughter can get raped, the next American kid can get murdered, the next American family can get splintered and torn apart by people that came into this country unchecked, uncontrolled, unvetted, uninvited by the American people. Yes. Well,
you ever notice? I feel like I've said it before, but you ever notice Stephen Miller, when he talks and he starts getting amped up about how much he wants to murder people, he starts itching. It's like there's a bunch of cockroaches about to crawl out of the back of his neck, and he starts itching and he moves to the side because the demon inside of him keeps wanting to expose itself. It wants to pop out of his head, and he gets more amped up. It's like he's itching. You guys ever watch what movie was that? Was it Tales from the Crypt or Tales from the Hood? One of those, where I'm sorry, totally not one of those kind of movies. It was Men in Black. Back in the 90s, Men in Black, the alien that had like roaches crawling out of his neck and he kept itching. I'm gonna put a picture up when I repost this. and he's got like roaches crawling out of the back of his neck. And then both of the agents knew that he was an alien, basically a cockroach that was trying to contain his human skin that he had over top of him. That's Stephen Miller, and that's who these guys are following, and it's the reason why that they're attacking people. But he had the nerve to say all these dirty illegals are breaking up families, as we're saying, are raping, are killing. And this guy, just yesterday, I talked about how he went on TV and said, all of my Gestapo agents understand you have no limits. You can do whatever you want. You have the backing of this federal government to attack American citizens. We are the invaders. We are the traitors to this country, Stephen Miller said. So this sorry son bitch embarrassed this country further. And again, on foreign ground, stood in front of Navy folks and kept on talking about how he can do anything he wants to attack the country that they're supposed to protect.
And we're sending in our National Guard. And if we need more than the National Guard, we'll send more than the National Guard, because we're going to have safe cities. We're not going to have people killed in our cities. And whether people like that or not, that's what we're doing. And you've been watching. And
he says as many ways as he can. That's not the same clip from before. That's two different times that he said, whether they like it or not, we're going to do what we want. That time, he said, whether people like it or not, we're going to go on and invade more cities. We're sending our National Guard in. And it's always on that same tired old line about protecting American cities. Hey, as we have that thought in our head again about protecting American cities, again, in case you guys thought just brown folks were the ones that are supposed to be targeted, here's another angle. I'm sorry for all the violent content. I'm sorry for all of the graphic nature of things that we keep seeing. But if we don't see them, they do it in darkness. And only the folks who witness it and experience it see it. That's the way this country always has been. We don't see it. And now we're seeing it. Here's another angle of, again, a 67-year-old man who was training for a marathon, trying to return home. And then Trump's and Stephen Miller's ICE agents fucking attacked him.
What the Hey, why is he dragging the horse? Be easy. Say that. 7 years old. What is he doing? He's suffocating. What are you doing? Michael! Get out of my neighborhood! Get the fuck out of here! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Piece of shit! You fucking American! All right, you got me! Get off the cab!
That was back to that original angle. It's hard to watch, man. But I want to point out, I've shown a black man being slammed up against the wall in New York. I've shown women getting snatched out of cars. I've shown underage Latino kids being snatched around and arrested and shirts ripped off. I've shown older Latino men being snatched around and ripped off of the streets. It's everybody. It's everybody. Just want to point out, as they keep talking about the enemies of the state and all of that stuff, understand that there's rhetoric, there's propaganda, which they'll say every day, constantly. So I'm here to show the reality every day, constantly. It's draining. It like takes a little bit of your soul to have to keep seeing this and keep talking about it. But it's even worse to hear the opposite and believe all of those lies. Let me show you another aspect of this ICE shakeup, because as you see things get worse, this is part of the reasons why. So one official with firsthand knowledge of these plans for this ICE shakeup that I mentioned earlier, who asked to speak on the condition of anonymity because they're afraid, he said it's a lot more. A total of 5 sources said that the 5 field office directors had been relieved of their duties and sent to other parts of the country to work. The DHS had plotted to fire all 5 field office directors, but then relented amid pushback from acting ICE director Todd Lyons, who his sorry ass pleaded that they not be terminated. If you don't remember, Todd Lyons earlier on in this administration was putting himself in front of cameras and was caping for all of their illegal activities then. Now he's pleading with the people who he's helped make this much worse. He's pleading with them to not do even more because, you know, there's an uncontrolled, rabid fascist in the White House, and he has an insatiable thirst and hunger for fucking things up. So when things are really bad, all he can see is a vision of things being worse. That's what he wants. That's who he is. So Todd Lyons, who was all about this MAGA administration and how ICE and DHS is going to keep doing all the things that they're doing, now he's pleading. Who he's going to have to plead to is the same guy that I mentioned yesterday, Greg Bovino, the guy who likes to dress up like a throwback version of an SS officer. The DHS had initially dispatched Greg Bovino, who oversees the Border Patrol's El Centro, California region, to help with immigration arrests in LA, Chicago, and Portland. Bovino has become the face of the Trump administration's crackdown on crime for his aggressive style, leading Border Patrol agents in a parade down the streets of Chicago's business district and standing face-to-face with fiery rioters and protesters, standing in the face of citizens who are tired of this shit. He also brought in Border Patrol agents to supplement ICE efforts. So now the second official explained that Bovino is not viewed as the exemption to the norm, but the new standard for what is to come at ICE. That's why they're shaking it up. Because again, Stephen Miller said, I want more. Donald Trump said, not enough blood. And collectively, they both said, who's our man in the street that can do this? Especially since we're too sorry ass and scared to do anything ourselves, except sit in an ivory tower and bark about it. Also, I'll show a little bit more of Greg Bovino in the streets running up on people and trying to provoke fights. And then when they don't engage, they fight them anyway. He looks like he's a solid 5'5". And he's got little man's complex. So he's got to hide behind his agents that he's hired to go do his dirty work too. Last video. There's no violence in this one. It's just a very clear example of what they've been told they can do, and not only can do, but what they should do.
So, man, what's here? What country? Were you born here? Were you born here, ma'am? What country were you born in?
Just a woman walking into Walmart. And maybe it's because of her stature. It looked like a teenager to me. Were you born here? What country were you born in, ma'am? Because we're about to attack you. I'm just showing you what they're doing. All right, let's get to this last one. Might go over by a couple minutes. Sorry. I never mean to talk as much as I do. But if you're enjoying it, hey, if you haven't hit like yet, go ahead and like it. I mean, you know what I don't do most days? I don't hit the like button myself. What's the matter with me? I got to add my own like. What's wrong with me? It's like destroying things. How am I going to ask you guys to do it and I don't do it myself? Let's go to this last bit. Donald Trump was speaking on a multitude of events at that Navy base over in Japan. And dude only knows how to campaign. The sad news is that he campaigns with this stupid over-the-top talking all the time. And nobody's buying it anymore. Here we are back on his economy. This is the same speech. He went over everything and lied about.
Inflation. Back home, we had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Energy costs are down. You know, energy costs are way down. Gasoline prices are way down. Grocery prices are way down. We have a little problem with beef. We're going to get that down very quickly, but the prices are way down. Mortgage rates are down despite having an incompetent head of the Fed. I call him too late. He's always too late. He's too late in lowering interest rates. I call him Jerome Too Late Powell. Inflation.
Bro, nobody gives a shit about your stupid nicknames anymore. People are suffering, but everything's way down. I'm not sure if the plan is for people to believe that or for them to say it and then laugh about it afterwards. This whole section is about how Scott Bessent and Donald Trump are tag teaming to try and lie to folks about what it is that we're looking at right in front of us. So Donald Trump says over the top crazy things. Scott Bessent goes on TV and acts like all these things make sense. So he gets frustrated when someone asks him a question.
Okay, let me ask you about something here back at home. Inflation. We learned this week that inflation in September ticked back up to 3%. That's the highest level since January. I want you to take a listen to something that President-elect Trump told me back in December. Take a look.
I started using the word, the groceries, when you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
Mr. Secretary, coffee prices are up 19% from a year ago. Beef is up almost 15%, and bacon up almost 6%, just to name a few. So when are all grocery prices going to come down, as President Trump promised?
Well, Kristen, it's unfortunate. As much as I like you, you like to cherry pick. So, when we came in, it was eggflation, eggflation, eggflation. Egg prices are down, gasoline prices are down. Overall, the inflation since President Trump has come in, has come down. We inherited this terrible affordability crisis from the Biden administration. The first thing we had to do was get it under control. And this month's inflation number was actually below the consensus number. If we look at core inflation, it was 0.2%, which was the lowest it's been in a long time. Rents are coming down. So, Kristen, you don't get to cherry pick. Inflation is a composite number, and I am confident that in the coming months, inflation is going to come down.
Hold on. First of all, Scott Bessent thinks Kristen Welker should give a damn if he likes her. As much as I like you, Kristen, you like to cherry pick. She should have responded and said, it doesn't matter whether or not you like me or not. Actually, I don't like you. I don't know whether or not she likes him or not, but who gives a damn? You see how this whole thing starts with you have to be in some kind of favor with these guys? They think they have some kind of authority over who they like. I don't give a shit if you like me. Matter of fact, if you like me, it's a mistake because I hate you. So, because as he's destroying the country, he wants to talk about how she's cherry picking things. These arguments just don't work. So he tried the same lines of saying everything's up and down and up and eggs. And you guys are mad at me about eggs at first. And now that changed, now you're mad at me about the fact that you're losing jobs and you can't afford anything else. I can't believe you guys would be like that. I used to like you, Kristen, despite the fact that, he doesn't like her. She at least asked him another question.
Just to be very clear, though, CPI has been higher in the past 3 months than it was in the first 5 months of the year. If President Trump's economic policies are working, why is inflation up? Why are those grocery prices that I just mentioned that he said were so critical, why are they up?
Well, again, Kristen, you're cherry picking because inflation actually had a drop, the first drop in 4 years in March and April under President Trump. And I am confident that as we come into the coming numbers, that we will see a drop in inflation back towards the Fed's 2% target. And I assume your next question is going to be to blame it on tariffs. And the imported goods have actually been quite flat or dropped, and it's mostly service goods. And another factor in the inflation report is what's called investment management income, and that's inflation that goes up because the stock market goes up, so management fees are higher.
Okay.
Folks about to lose their SNAP benefits. Scott Bessent thinks he can talk about how people's stock markets, portfolios are affected, and how, if you're prepared from your stock market portfolio, it's changed his fee structure and all this. Who gives a damn? Nobody is thinking about that stuff except for you and your rich buddies. This is an illustration of a bubble. He thinks people give a shit about all these things that he's just talking about, and that doesn't affect the fact that they literally go to the grocery store, buy 5 things, and pay $72 for them. He really thinks that they're going to be, oh, well, you know, I'm broke and I barely have enough food to feed 3 people that live in my house. But at the same time, Scott Bessent said the stock market is what's changing all these things. Who cares? They're so detached from reality. They're so detached from humans because they don't think anyone else is worthy of a human treatment that they think they only get. Like, this guy went on TV. Look at this. I'm gonna show you guys the face in the freeze frame of this loser that it's still stuck on. This guy has the face of a smug sumbitch. He really thought he just nailed it because, Kristen, I used to like you as much as I like you. Did you know? What a sorry ass. Sorry, I took too long on Scott Bessent. I know he's going to anger me like that. Here's the propaganda from Donald Trump. I'm sorry, I have to keep playing it because he keeps saying it, and we have to not believe it.
With the swaps plan or with the changes to beef purchases, depending on the result of
Well,
that
we'll
election?
see. We'll see. We're going to take care of. Look, we're going to take care of our ranchers one way. That we have 2 situations. The ranchers for 35 years have done very poorly. The cattle people, they've done very, very poorly, and now they're doing well, but the price is up. So what I can see happening is we're going to take some beef because I have to get the price down. I want to get most prices are down. If you look at energy and all the, I have things down, but beef is high, and the cattle ranchers are doing good. They backed me from day one. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that they don't get hurt, but we have to also make sure that I get the prices down. I want to get the prices down like I did with eggs, like I did with lots of others. We had a couple of them where when I first took over, eggs were double and quadruple what they were. That was Biden's fault. A lot of this is Biden's fault too. And we're going to get the price of beef down, and I'm going to make sure the cattle ranchers don't get hurt.
Mr. President.
He said the same thing 3 to 4 times in that minute and 5 seconds. Ranchers, beef is going to come back down. But the one thing he said that I think he wanted to stick was, it's all Biden's fault. Nobody's buying it anymore. Like, nobody's buying it anymore. If you listen to him, he doesn't say anything. Because if the follow-up question would be, how are you going to get beef down? How did you get egg prices down? Because he didn't. And also, so what are you going to do for these ranchers? And what do you say to the ranchers who said, we don't want your bailouts? That's not going to sustain me for my business and my continued life. No one, I mean, maybe some people ask him, but that's when he moves on and says that they're fake news and who are you and where you're from and your organization isn't doing too well. Every time he does stuff like that, it means, oh, you got me. I actually suck at this. I wish you hadn't brought that up. Didn't you buy my bullshit the first time? Speaking of bullshit, this is why Scott Bessent is in a bubble. Here's more of the propaganda that I think Scott Bessent thinks we're supposed to buy from Donald Trump. Again, standing in front of a naval base in Japan, talking about this.
The greatest economy in the history of the world. We had an economy like nobody has seen before. Now we're doing it again, but this time actually it's going to be much bigger, much stronger. I told you $17 trillion, but it's going to be $21 trillion. And that's numbers that have never been heard of before, much bigger than any other country in the world by literally $16 trillion. It's amazing. The greatest.
Yeah, he's definitely right about one thing. These are numbers no one's ever heard of before, because we can't hear about them until you pull them out of your ass, which he keeps doing. We're up to $21 trillion. It was like 2 months ago when we were at 8, maybe it was 7. We jumped to 11. I think it was 14, 17, 20, now 21. They don't care anymore. There's all these questions about whether or not he's got cognitive decline, whether or not he's got some kind of, mental disorder and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. Because even if he does, the rest of the people that are surrounding him keep acting like what he's saying make any sense. You never heard of it before. It's the type of things you've never even heard of before. But the main reason that, as he says all that stuff and Scott Bessent knows that he's lying, I'm going to refer back to this interview that he had with Kristen Welker, who he likes her, but she cherry picks This is Scott Bessent's main reason for backing this guy up. Scott Bessent wants more money. Scott Bessent isn't rich enough for Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent's a billionaire. So Scott Bessent said, hey, I'm willing to take more of your money and hand it over to this puppet we placed in Argentina so I can make more money. And my buddies that invested, sadly, into this horrific government that we set up and told them how to run it, we can't lose. This is his excuse for why they did it.
To another big issue, the Trump administration recently extended a $20 billion lifeline to Argentina that has gotten some bipartisan criticism, Mr. Secretary, including from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. I'll read you a little bit of what she wrote. She says, quote, Americans are getting decimated with high cost of living and skyrocketing insurance costs. Many of them have zero savings and some are maxing out credit cards to survive. Tell me how it's America first to bail out a foreign country with 20 or even 40 billion taxpayer dollars. How is this move America first, Mr. Secretary?
Well, Kristen, it is America first because we are supporting a U.S. ally. There will be no taxpayer losses. This is a swap line. This is not a bailout. And it is from the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which Treasury, I control at Treasury. It is never registered a loss. It is not going to register a loss this time. We are supporting a U.S. ally in Latin America, and we want to set the tone in Latin America because look at what's going on in Venezuela. It is a failed narco state, and I'm a big fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think she's a fantastic voice in Congress. But please let me finish. So we think it is much better to use American economic power up front to stabilize a friendly government and lead the way, because we've got many other governments. We've got many other governments in Latin America, Bolivia, Ecuador, Paraguay, who all want to follow. So I would rather extend a swap line than be shooting at the boats carrying drugs as we're having to coming out of Venezuela.
Well, you take me to.
This is why it's so hard to lie for Donald Trump. He has to cover up the fact that he's trying to make more money by investing into Argentina with our money, number one. Number two, he has to bring up the drug lies that they keep saying about drug boats. Even Donald Trump at that same speech said submarines are coming. We're blowing up submarines now because submarines are being manned by drug cartels out of Venezuela. The story just keeps changing. But he'd rather give away a whole bunch of money to supplement his latest, investments and his buddies' investments, and then say it's about the drug trade. Nobody's buying it, especially, again, as I pointed out, Scott Bessent's trying to be the standard. He's trying to be the one who's the smart guy, who's telling you things like it is that no one's really listening to. But the problem is the president always undercuts him. Scott Bessent's actually on this plane. Scott Bessent is standing behind Donald Trump while he says stupid shit and exposes and gives away the whole game.
Wow, what a great question that is. I love that question because that was a big win in Argentina. I want to congratulate the victor, and he was a big victor, and he had a lot of help from us. He had a lot of help. I gave him an endorsement, very strong endorsement, and it was really unexpected to have a victory of that. Some people thought it would be hard to win, and not only did he win by a lot. So Argentina, that was a great thing. And I give Scott and I give Jameis and everybody, Marco, a lot of credit for that because, we are sticking with a lot of the countries in South America. We're focused very much on South America, and we're getting a real strong handle on South America in a lot of ways, including the fact that we don't want their drugs. We don't want drugs coming into our country, and you're seeing that.
Oops. Scott Bessent wants to keep talking about how they're looking to help out our allies. So how many of our allies are we turning on? Well, that lie got dispelled. But also, Donald Trump says we helped him win. I want to congratulate the victor. He got a lot of help from us. We interfered in a foreign election and took our puppet, placed him in it, used American tax dollars and money to go feed him more after he failed around, and we need to keep him there so we can make our money back. We took more American dollars and fed him even more. And I want to congratulate myself because, you know, no one knew that we could pull it off. No one knew we could pull off that kind of interference in someone else's elections. No one knew it. He gives away the game because he just doesn't care. Here's another part of how he gave away the game. Remember, Scott Besson wants to avoid the fact that they're trying to make money. Donald Trump doesn't avoid that fact.
What do you think the state of the fiscal situation is there now? Do you think you'll have to do another?
Well, we have the all-time expert right here. I think right now we've made a lot of money based on that election because the bonds have gone up. Their whole debt rating has gone up. You know, that election made a lot of money for the United States. Now, we're not in that for money per se, but if you look at the value of the bonds, the debt, Scott, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think the great victory in this election, President Milei, I think he is going to expand his coalition. And you know, they have some big refinancings next year, but the Argentinian people have spoken. President Trump, that they know that the U.S. is their ally thanks to President Trump. We're behind them. And that they're going to be able to fix their fiscal and keep on the road. He's working against 100 years of bad policies, and he's going to break them thanks to the support for the United States.
And we're helping other South American countries also, as you know.
We made a lot of money off of that election. We made a lot of money. We're rolling in it, bro. We took $40 billion that we're going to give them. And however much money and resources we gave to try and make sure that Milei wins or that his people win, that he stays in power, we took it and we made a lot of money. And something triggered in Trump's brain. And he said, oh, I mean, it's not really about the money. It's just all I've been talking about is the money. I don't know. This is the money I've been talking about. So again, he talked about $21 trillion he's brought in. He was going to bring in. How much of that money has American citizens seen? How much of that money has gone to you? Because first of all, it's not $21 trillion. He's made $5 billion, he and his family, because he's been profiting off of his positions. How much money has that done for you? I don't have to say, yo, you know, he thinks when he says he's bringing in a lot of money for the United States, what he means is he's bringing in a lot of money for himself and all of the oligarchs that surround him. That's what it is. But if you don't believe it, just check your bank account and see if any of that money is in your bank account. If it's not, it means he's not bringing in any money to you. And if you think it's supposed to come in the form of resources for the United States, ask the folks who are about to have their healthcare subsidies go crazy. Ask the people who are no longer going to have SNAP benefits. Ask the crumbling infrastructure plans. Ask the people who are dying in floods and hurricanes that keep happening as he strips money from that. Where is this money going? All this money that you're making for the United States, where is it showing up? It doesn't have to be in dollars in your bank accounts. Where is it showing up as hospitals are set to close? As you can't afford your kids' after school programs and daycare? Where is this money showing up? Just wondering. But, you know, last clip here, since we're talking about Argentina and all the money he's making, in case you missed it the first time, he really, really wants you to know, because Donald Trump is obsessed with rigging games and saying that he won. He can't stop talking about how he interfered in this election to make some money.
Will they need more support, or would you consider it if they need it?
They might. Yeah, we would consider it. I think they'll be a good shape.
Yeah, we think the market's going to do it from here. Now that he's gotten over this, as I always said, this was a bridge. We've bridged him. Thanks to President Trump's support, he did better than anyone ever expected. The Peronis said it wasn't a fair election because we were running against Donald Trump too. And now I think the market is going to take care of itself, and it's going to have a lot of confidence in his policies and the way forward.
The polls were very wrong on that election. I mean, the polls really got it wrong. That was an election they said was going to be lost, and not only was it won, but it was won by a lot. And maybe we did help. I hope we helped.
I hope we helped. Are you guys glad that your money helped? and that you don't have it anymore? Just curious. All right. That's that. That's today's fascism update. Should I change the name of the show? The fascism update. No, I shouldn't, because he's gonna be done. It's not gonna be around forever. It's just we're living in it now. I mean, maybe we need to experience it because we've been on this road of authoritarianism in different forms that have been authoritarian types of rules and regulations throughout our government and our country for a long time. But it's only been for certain people. It's just that number of people is expanding. All right. Good to see you guys. Glad you're here. Tell John I say hey, but you know what? He called me out yesterday when I went on. Did you guys? I'm not sure how many of you guys go over to damage report. He called me out and he said, I know when you finish late because there's a flood of people that say, hey, we're just coming over from the watch party. Well, we're only 10 minutes behind. He said it happens 15 minutes deep. Tell him we're only 10 minutes into our flood into his chat and his show. But tell him I say hey. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll see you on Wednesday. It's coming up middle of the week. Maybe some decent news is coming. I keep saying it. We'll look for it. Maybe we'll find it. Send me a couple of these good stories. Maybe I have something for you. We'll see you guys tomorrow. See you, man.